Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. As you can tell, I am not Andrew, but I am hosting today. My name is Scott, and I'm thrilled to tell you that I'm with one of my best friends in the world, a key member of the Tottenham Depot podcast, who's often working his butt off behind the scenes, but he is here live on camera with us, and that is Dakota J. Booth at Dakota J. Booth. Dakota, what's up, man?
Uh, you know, we're getting ready to kick off a new season of Tottenham Hotspur soccer, which it feels like the last one just ended. So quick turnaround. I think it's 89 days in between seasons. So um, hasn't been gone too long, but a lot has happened in between. So I'm pumped to be here with you and to kind of give our listeners a little preview of our very first match of the season on Sunday against Leicester City.
100%. It is preview time, as you said. And the listeners don't have to deal with Andrew today. So, what a wonderful thing for them as well. Of course,
Just
I
don't
kid.
just don't expect too much structure since he's not here.
uh, no, 100%. But we are flying by the seat of our pants as we do well. Andrew, of course, I joke is the greatest host on the planet. We love Andrew to death and all the work that he puts into the pod. For those listeners who don't know, that man puts in a lot of work, and we will always be appreciative of everything that Andrew does for the podcast. But yeah, Dakota and I are here to chat and discuss the upcoming match against Leicester on Monday. What a wonderful time for Spurs fans. We mentioned it on the show earlier this week, but it may be the best time for Spurs fans, right? Because we have so much hope before any football is played. We all believe that good things could happen. But I think this year it feels a little bit more like they actually could, right? And we'll get into some of that. But the Big Ange project is well underway. We're in season 2. And as we've said a couple times, we have Leicester City on Monday, newly promoted side. But Dakota, what are your overall opinions of what we can expect from this match? And we're going to get into the nitty gritty, but from 30,000 feet, what are your expectations on Monday?
Yeah, I think even though Leicester City is a name that a lot of Spurs fans are familiar with because they were a staple in the Premier League for a number of years, I this is not that team, and this is a team. They've got some injury woes going on right now, and we are kind of coming off of a season of rest and hopefully recovery. We've added some pieces to the squad. We've had a full off season under Ange Postecoglou to get some new and fresh ideas in the mix. Our boys have had a full season of Ange ball to get their legs underneath of them, and there's no reason we shouldn't hit the ground running against Leicester City. Is kind of the short of it. They hired Steve Cooper as their manager back in June. We will all be familiar with him for his time at Nottingham Forest. So kind of Nottingham Forest ball, but with half the quality, looking at their squad and who's available to them right now. So I hope that this is not kind of the quote unquote trap game that we could maybe in the past expect a game like this to be. Away, opening day, the last game of the opening weekend, all of those things. Kind of seems like more of an opportunity for our guys to put their business suits on and walk into the King Power and leave with a handful of goals and a full allotment of points.
Yeah, fully agreed. You mentioned Steve Cooper. I do think he sets up plucky sides. We could say plucky is a very overused word when we're talking
Right.
about lower teams on the table. But he is capable of producing defensive football that knows when to attack and attack efficiently. Right, we saw that at Forest. But as you said, the side is much less in quality than what he had at his disposal at Nottingham. Speaking of less talent at his disposal, reports are that Patson Daka is out for some time, and you and I are big fans of him. Both of us, we've
Yeah.
talked about him in past, right? I think at one point we both were calling for Spurs to bring him in, and it didn't quite happen. And I think that was kind of at that time that Leicester was doing a really good job of bringing in talented players that much of the league was looking at, right? But Patson Daka's out, and that leaves someone that we've never heard of, either of us, in Thomas Cannon up top of striker. I think he's their only registered available striker on Monday. assuming we don't know a ton about him, but do you have anything on this Thomas Cannon or maybe the lesser version of TC, as we can say here around the Diva?
Right. Well, I heard Tom Cannon's name for the first time today while listening to the press conference of Steve
There we go.
Cooper leading up. So absolutely zero information on Tom Cooper. So hopefully he's not sneaky dangerous, and we're totally underrating this guy. But massive blow for them to lose Patson Daka, FM legend for both of us.
Indeed.
And and Jamie Vardy is working his way back from an injury, not going to be totally available. So, like you said, Tom Cannon up top by himself. They've got some defensive injuries too, some familiar names from Premier League recent past, kind of working their way back in there also. So yeah, I genuinely don't know what to expect from this Leicester side, but it's not because they are going to pull a rabbit out of their hat. It's because I haven't heard of most of their players, and maybe that's on me for not watching the championship more. But looking at a lot of the media predictions, almost everybody's got Leicester going right back down. So maybe it's not just me not paying attention, but they're not necessarily the Premier League quality players across the board in that Leicester side.
Hey, we all can't be Caroline and just consume all soccer. That she's an absolute beast and a workhorse, and that no one consumes more soccer than Caroline. So she probably knows a little bit more about Tom Cannon than we do. But what I have pulled from the interwebs is that he is an Everton Academy lad. Last year, he spent the first half of the season on loan at Preston North End in the Championship from Leicester. 20 appearances, 8 goals, so not a horrible return.
Good return.
In the Championship by any means. And then spent the second half of the season at Leicester City, where he had 2 goals and 13 appearances. I do find a wonderful picture of him waving from the bus parade after winning promotion, and he's a good-looking lad, so he's got that going for him for sure. But yeah, we'll see what he brings to the table on Monday. I think it's easy for us Spurs fans to think maybe not much, but we'll see. Other interesting highlights from players' perspectives. You and I have talked about this, but James Maddison makes his first return to the King Power Stadium since making his move to Tottenham last year. Obviously going to be a great moment for James to go back to his old home and see close connections and all of that, right? Do you think there's any reason to believe that James will pack an extra punch on Monday as he returns to again his old home?
Yeah, I think James will have a little bit of extra motivation going into the match, but maybe not for the same reason as someone on the other side of the field will, playing against his old side, which we will talk about. But yeah, James Maddison strikes me as a guy who takes a lot of pride in what he does, and a lot of people sometimes the pressure will get to them and they'll fold in those moments where there's a little bit of extra pressure, or they know there's a bunch of family in the stands watching. I think James Maddison lives for those moments. So perhaps we'll see some more of those Maddison magic moments that we hoped to get before he kind of had a stop-start to his season with some injuries and international breaks and all that stuff last year. So could be a great opportunity for him to use that extra motivation and kick off a great season in his old stomping grounds.
Yep, 100% agree with you. I expect James to be able to rise to the occasion. He had a great spell at Leicester. I believe he won an FA Cup there, and some good solid seasons, we could say, before they went down. And so I expect good things from James. And then you got to it already, but one Harry Winks will square off against Tottenham for the first time since making his move to Leicester last season. I think we both feel that Harry Winks is a wonderful footballer, and Angie even had some comments in the past couple of days about the talent level that Harry Winks brings and timing and how all these things factor in. Obviously, Harry was instrumental to their return to the Premier League. And you again touched on the motivation that Harry will bring with him on Monday. But what do you expect from old Harry Winks?
Yeah, I enjoyed seeing Ange's comments, and whether I don't know if he's being genuine or diplomatic, but either way, it seemed like he really was complimentary of Harry and almost said he was on his way out before I even got here. I didn't have much
Yeah.
say in it.
Yep.
Otherwise, who knows? Maybe Harry Winks is a staple in the midfield.
Yep. No, I completely agree. I think again, timing factors in, and as you mentioned, Ange did come out and say that Winksy was on his way out prior to him arriving, right? So more to be seen, but it stands to reason that Harry Winks will come quite motivated to perform against Spurs Monday, and regardless of any emotions associated with that move, you're always, as a human being, going to want to show your old club that they made a poor decision in moving you on, especially when it's a club that you spent your entire childhood at. Harry Winks is and always will be one of our own, regardless of the shirt that he wears right now. So I personally am very excited to get to watch Harry Winks play against Spurs on Monday, and I expect a really, really good performance from him. Dare I even say it, but maybe I expect a little Harry Winks 25-yard banger.
Yeah.
We'll see. I hope not, right, from a Spurs perspective, but I might be happy for Harry Winks if they lose 3-1 and that one goal for Leicester is a Winks banger. So we'll see.
Yeah, as long as he scores it after we've scored our 3 and not in like the second minute. That's fine.
100%. Please not off the bat. Like you said, we do not need a trap game against Leicester City to kick off the Premier League season. Kind of a bummer that we play on Monday too, right? But so be it. This is life, and we'll roll the punches. It's actually, as we record, Man United and Fulham are playing out the second half of their match up in Manchester. So yeah, exciting times as the Premier League is, as we record, in full effect, in full swing, and we've got 38 game weeks to look forward to. But again,
you know what? Like getting the last game of the opening match week, all eyes are on you, and that's what happens when you're box office. And Ange Ball is box office, so all eyes on us.
It is.
Let's make it worth it to the viewer.
100%. No, and I think you're right. I think there's something to be said too for getting to close out the game week and have an idea of what's happened elsewhere. And of course, we're very focused at Spurs on what Spurs are doing and what's in front of us, right? But I think there's a lot to be said for closing out match week 1, right? I think there's a lot of pressure if you open match week 1 like Fulham and United are doing today, and 0-0 at halftime, right? Maybe speak something to that. But yeah, obviously excited for Monday, regardless of when that first match falls. Let's talk lineups a little bit. We can talk predictions if we want to, and I'll start with you. But yeah, do you expect this lineup to be pretty standard? Are there any surprises? Talk me through the 11 that you expect to see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be our current strongest 11, I think, which I don't know will be a surprise to anyone unless you maybe don't expect Dominic Solanke to slot in. I do. I think he was bought to start match week 1. Yep. So otherwise, kind of just our full strength. Vicario in goal. I'm coughing up a storm.
Yeah, take your time.
Vicario in goal. Pedro Porro, Destiny Udogie on the flanks. Cudi Romero, Mickey Van de Ven. 6 is where it gets interesting, right? Because Basuma has been suspended. I think Bentancur will slot in there with Sarr and Madison. I think Brennan Johnson gets to start on the right wing. Solanke up top, Son on the left. I think that's going to be our preferred 11 for the first month or so of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do have the exact same lineup. From a prediction standpoint, I have the exact same lineup. There are a couple of changes that I would personally make to that if it were me, and it's not me, right? I do not manage Tottenham Hotspur. If it were me, I would say Poro, Romero, Van de Ven, Udogie, Bentaker at the 6. This is where it gets interesting for me. I would actually have Bergvall and Kulusevski starting in place of Sarr and Madison, and I only say that based off of preseason form, right? And as a fan, it's very easy to base everything off of what we're seeing through a TV screen, right? But I thought both looked very talented. That's my heart speaking. My head says that it will be Sarr and Madison that start in front of Bentaker. And then my front three, both what I want and what I expect is the same thing, and that's, as you said, Son on the left, Solanke through the middle, and Brennan Johnson on the right. I've talked about it on a few shows. I expect Brennan Johnson to lead the team in assists this season, and potentially the Premier League. I won't say that for sure, but I think he's going to be in the mix for one of the highest assist producers in the league. I really think that's mostly down to the way that we play, and the system is designed for those wingers to beat their fullback to the end line and put low crosses into the box, and Brennan Johnson does that really well, especially considering the pairing with Pedro Porro, who is phenomenal at putting balls in the right place for Brennan Johnson to run onto, and Brennan can do the same thing for Porro. So I expect really good things on the right flank for Spurs. So yeah, I think we both predict the exact same lineup, and albeit my heart and head are different, I think I'll go with my head and match your predicted lineup as well. So again, for the listener, that's Porro at right back, that's Romero and Van de Ven in the middle at center back, that's Udogie at left back, that's Bentaker at the 6, Sarr at the 8, Madison at the 10, and that's Son, Solanke, and Brendan Johnson up top.
Yeah, and I love your kind of heart lineup there, because you put Lucas Bergvall in, and I've not been shy about telling you guys my love for Lucas Bergvall. I think we have just gone out and got a world-class footballer before his 18th birthday. I'm really looking forward to that guy getting minutes in the first team squad, getting him some minutes in Europe. I think he overtakes Madison's role in the 10 before Thanksgiving, which is the end of November for our non-American listeners. So I think he's got the world at his feet, and I think Ange Postecoglou is the perfect coach to bring that out in him, and I'm really excited for that. Hopefully, this game is as straightforward as we think, and if he's on the bench, maybe Mikey Moore gets a little run out towards the end too. That guy was extremely impressive in preseason, and it's no wonder that we've signed him to what has been reported as a 5-year contract. I hope it's actually a lifetime contract, and kind of get him eased in and rolling, because I do think we talk about cups kind of being the place for young guys to prove their worth and get some minutes. With the way that the cups went last year, I do not think that Ange Postecoglou is going to take them lightly this year, and we're not going to see a rotated lineup rolled out to Fulham or whoever we play in the first round of the Carabao Cup like we did last year. He's going to take those seriously, and it's going to be another opportunity for these young guys to have to fight to get their minutes, because those are going to be treated as importantly as they are to you and I, and not necessarily maybe all of the people at the club.
No, you bring up a good point, because we've invested so much in the youth, and data shows now that we have maybe the youngest influx of players since Ange came in, and that means incomings, right? But no other club in the Premier League has bought an average age group of players in the manner that Spurs have, right? I believe it's like roughly 21 and a half years old is the average age of any incoming since Ange took over. When you have that much youth, you have no choice but to play who's in form and who's training the best. You can't worry about how young they are, what kind of experience they have. If they're training well and they're performing, they play. It's as simple as that. So I'm really, really excited to see what happens. And like you said, I think Ange is going to roll out the strongest 11 in terms of fitness that he's able to each and every single match. And that means guys like Bergvall, that means guys like Mikey Moore, even a Will Langsher, dare I say, are really going to have to take advantage of those opportunities that they get, and those opportunities are going to be later in matches when there's less on the line. Yeah, so they'll have to shine when they're given the opportunity, and I think Leicester, as you're getting at, could be an opportunity for some of that to happen in match week 1. So really, really exciting time to be able to sit down and watch Tottenham take on Leicester City in match week 1 of the 24-25 Premier League season. Before we wrap, let's talk score predictions. That's always fun, right? And I will avoid my typical 22-1 Spurs prediction, right? And I'll go realistic here, but we'll start with you. What do you expect from score prediction on Monday?
I am optimistic since the Premier League announced their rule change to how they're going to referee corners. I think we're going to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a little bit optimistic here, and I'm going to go 4-0. I think we're going to put 4 past this Leicester City squad. It might be a little struggle. They're going to probably pack it in the first parts of the match, but as we saw teams do last year, they get a little bored and tired of that, and they start to creep out of their super low block, and then we pounce. So that mixed with the Maddison motivation from playing against his old squad in his old stadium, I think we get 4 past them.
Who scores those 4 goals?
I think Cudi Romero gets on the score sheet match week 1. That guy could have had 10 goals last year, which is ridiculous from a center back. But I think Cudi Romero scores. I'm going to say Brennan Johnson gets 1. And I think Dominic Solanke scores 2 on debut. I think gets 1 with his feet and 1 with his head.
I love that because and I'm smiling for those who are watching on YouTube because I also am predicting that Solanke scores 2 goals. It felt bold, but it feels less bold now that you've said the same thing. I'm going to go 4-1. I like the 4 goals from Spurs angle from your prediction. I am actually going to say that Harry Winks scores a banger. I'm feeling it. So, and I'll be happy with the 4-1 victory and a Harry Winks banger. But Solanke for 2 goals. I'm not quite sure how those come. You mentioned a header and a standard foot finish with the feet, but I'm going to go 2 goals for Solanke. I'm going to go for a goal for Brennan Johnson as well. I feel confident in him getting a few opportunities to score and taking one of them. And then I'm going to say James Maddison gets a goal too, which I think is a bit of a risky prediction because his form hasn't been great lately, but he does know how to find himself in the right spaces in the box. I think that's something he does really well as a 10 in comparison to other people, that play the position. But I think Maddison gets a goal too at the King Power, and we'll see the muted celebration and my bad type of thing from him. But I expect the goal from Spurs number 10 as he continues to bounce back and find his form that we saw early in last season. We know it's there. So it looks like we both expect good results from Spurs. 3 points would be a wonderful way to kickstart the season. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap?
Come on, you Spurs. Let's go win the league.
Come on, you Spurs, man. Could we? That's the question we'll be asking. So we will continue to ask that question aggressively here at the Tottenham Depot. Andrew may ask that question less aggressively than Dakota and I, right? He's always the pragmatic one. But Dakota and I will fully assume the Spurs are winning the league until mathematically it looks like they're not. But yeah, for myself, for Dakota, for the whole Tottenham Depot crew, we appreciate everybody tuning in. We were happy to discuss the upcoming match against Leicester as we kick off again the 24-25 season. And as always, come on, you Spurs.